Nicole James Escobar here, and I wanted to talk to y'all about a book that I recently discovered. It was on one of the bestseller lists, but I was really intrigued by it. It met my book score, and I want to tell you guys a little bit more about my book score because I spend about an hour a week looking at books and judging books and finding books for me to read because I would like to read interesting books, and I do have about a 6 criteria that I use whether I'm going to buy the book or not. Let me take you through a quick part of the book. It is one of the Valentine books from Penguin Random House Audio. Valentine's Books is a division of Penguin Random House Audio. This book was released in August of this year, 2024. It's entitled Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, and it's read by Kit Griffiths, who's also read Coco's other book, Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and she's the narrator has also worked on many other books. Now, I did some research onto Coco Mellors because I was curious. I had never read any of her books before. She had lived in London and New York, and this is actually where the book is based. So let me give you a quick breakdown of how I even chose to read this book. Okay, so the cover, it was interesting. You know, it's an artistic depiction of the four sisters. I generally do not like depictions because I like to visualize the characters myself. But this one kind of worked. You know, there was a lot of white space. There was the four sisters. There's some really unique descriptions in the books about the four sisters. So actually being able to see the four sisters was really nice. So I gave that a 3 out of 5. The title, I gave it a 4 out of 5, Blue Sisters. There is another book by the same name, but that one is a short story about juvenile arthritis. But Blue Sisters is kind of an interesting title. The description of the book, I gave it a 4 out of 5. The description was that of different problems that the girls dealt with. Each of the 4 girls had their own problems, and for me that was really interesting. There was a lawyer that's struggling with addiction, a model who's apparently about to be fired, an ex-pro fighter who turned into a bouncer, and the second to youngest, the third of the children, Nicole, had died. And, you know, Nicole apparently didn't accomplish very much in life, and I felt that she was very similar to myself, so that kind of resonated with me. After I read the description, I downloaded a sample, because this isn't a normally type of book that I enjoy reading. I find that a lot of the literary books are very dry and focus on choosing the correct word. They're more of a portrait painted in the English language than they are focusing on action. And I like an interesting story. I don't care about your beautiful artistic abilities with the English language. I care about a good story. So I downloaded a sample. And not an audiobook sample, because I find audiobook samples are very unreliable. Sometimes they start at the beginning of the book, sometimes they start in the middle of the chapter. You never know exactly where the audiobook starts until you actually read the book. So I always download a sample of the actual book. And the prologue was good. I gave the prologue a 4 out of 5 because it was interesting. It describes sisterhood. I'm a sister, and so I get that. And then I read the first couple sentences of the first chapter. The opening lines were good. 5 out of 5. Very interesting. And the dedication. And sometimes the dedication, you know, is just kind of bonus points because not every book has a dedication. Not every book it is good. But the dedication was for Daisy, for being there from the beginning, and for Henry for promising to stay to the end. And I gave that a 5 out of 5 just because that hit really hard. So overall, my score for the book was an 83%, and that was enough for me to continue on in the journey. I did do a quick preview of the book, audiobook, and overall I read less than 100 words of this book before I bought it. And those 100 words were all I needed to want to buy this book. And I did buy it because there was a 20-week long wait on Libby. And I like to kind of stay on books that are trending because I want to be reviewing books that people are currently wanting to read. And a lot of times books that were published in the 90s, people aren't busy wanting to be like, oh, let me read that. No, I mean, the hype is about books that are being currently published. I listened to the first couple sections, the prologue and the first chapter, and I was hooked. Definitely 9 out of 10. The prologue is gritty and real in a way that takes a look at what makes the sisters and the bonds that connects them. And it introduces the 4 sisters, and I felt connected to the girls by the end of the prologue, which is really hard to do. And the first chapter, we see the model Lucky. She's the youngest of the sisters. She's working. She's a party girl. She's late to her work. And she seems so delightfully immature. Like, she got stuck at the age of 12. And she didn't deal with all the teenage change that's parts of growing up. The getting responsible part, becoming boring in some people's words. And that's the beauty of this character, is that she is the youngest and she hasn't had to grow up. She's this Peter Pan character in the book. And she lives the enchanting life of parties and famous people and beautiful people. And the oldest character is a lawyer. And she lives in an upscale part of London. She's married. She seemingly has her life together, no children. But then the curtain comes down a little bit. We see that perfection is not obtainable. She has flaws. She struggles with an addiction. The middle sister, the bouncer, she has secret problems. She seems that she can handle anything. But she's dealing with some guilt and repressed feelings for someone she wants to love her back. And these are how the 3 characters are introduced to ourselves. They have interesting flaws, interesting careers, and they're at very different places in each of their lives. And I am about I am about 40% of the way down through the book. And I would like to recommend it. Now, this is what other people are saying on Apple Books. They're giving it a 3.0 out of 5, which translates to a 76%. I think that's a little low, to be honest. Kindle is giving it an 84%, a 4.2 out of 5. And Barnes & Noble, I think, has the most accurate rating. I think they also had the most reviews, if I recall correctly, a 4.5 out of 5 and 88%. Now, just keep in mind that I'm not completely through the book yet. I wanted to let you guys know about it. And I would give it a solid 88%. Myself. So check it out. Again, that is Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I try to take y'all through the process that I have of choosing a book, because it's always interesting for me to find books and to know, okay, this book meets the criteria. Well, what is the criteria? So I finally sat down and I was defining a little bit. I'll probably make another video walking y'all through exactly how I'm defining the criteria, because for me that was interesting. But anyway, check it out. It is a literary book. It's a beautiful book, but it's nitty gritty. It has really interesting characters with interesting flaws. And at the end of the day, having a flawed narrator is something I personally appreciate. Let me know what you think. Check it out. Definitely read the sample. Listen to the audiobook sample. I did not check out the audiobook sample, so I'm not entirely sure where it starts. But overall, recommend this book.